Welcome everybody back to Friar Talk. Today we're recording. Isaac and I recorded last week. This week, Chase and I are together. As you know, the schedules have not been too kind to us. We're all on different work schedules, not really around as much anymore. So we're excited to get some vids out today. Chase and I, we're going to have a vid today just about where the Padres are. This is before Thursday night's game against the Dodgers, where they are, why they're very likely to end up in that wild card spot, and just kind of talk about the playoff scenarios, what the paths look like, not only for the Padres, but also just like the NL in general, like what it's kind of shaping out to be. We're going to go over that. And then later this week, we're going to talk about Jackson Merrill, Rookie of the Year. And we're also going to talk about Robert Suarez. So we got two other videos coming out later this week. Sometime Sunday night. I'll schedule it, later, probably during the day on Sunday. We are going to go live. We're going to do another stream. It's been a little bit since I think all three of us, and I think all three of us will be around, which is awesome. But we're going to kind of go over, all right, end of the season. Let's talk Padres baseball. Let's talk about this playoff series, whoever the Padres do end up matching up in the wild card round, if they stay in the wild card round. But yeah, that's kind of the overall gist. We don't know how our playoffs or like recording schedule is going to be, but either way, we get a few vids out this week. Excited to be able to do so. Excited to find some time. But first things first, Padres right now playing the Dodgers. Series is at 1-1. Padres are sitting 3 games back, and if they lose tonight, they are going to be in that wild card spot. If they win tonight, it's going to be a 2-game spot, two games back, and basically what has to happen. The scenario is this: how it has to play out. 4 games left. Padres have to win tonight. They need to go sweep the Diamondbacks, and then the Dodgers need to lose 2 of 3 against the Rockies. The Padres are in Arizona. The Dodgers are at Coors. So that's basically what has to happen. So it's definitely an uphill battle. When we talked about it like a week or so ago, we said, look, if Padres are going to win the division, they're going to have to sweep the Dodgers. Last night, it was a great game. Also, it was a great game. They don't end up winning. So it is. I think it's pretty unlikely that this happens. We got to remember, guys, like even if the Padres are able to win the next 4, Dodgers are a good team. They're probably going to beat the Rockies in that series. That's just the reality of the situation. Am I rooting for that to not happen? 100%. Also, keep rooting for the Brewers to lose, because if the Padres do jump the Dodgers, they need to be ahead of the Brewers in the standings as well. But looking at it right now, even though you might not win the division, you're still feeling pretty good because this team has looked really, really good. You're sitting in the wild card spot. I think you have to win like one more game to clinch that very top wild card spot, something like that. Maybe you just have to win, I think, 1 of 2 against the Diamondbacks. But Padres are sitting right now, top wild card spot. It's looking like they're going to have a home field, 2 to 3 home playoff games in the wild card round. So, Chase, before we kind of get into all the scenarios for what that wild card round is going to look like, kind of the teams that are vying and stuff, how are you feeling about this Padres team? Because it's been a little bit since we both were on there talking Padres baseball.
They caught fire at the right time. I remember, what was this stat? They were either like 48 and 48 or something like that. They were sitting at 500, and then they went on a tear and won like 48, and they went like 48 and 17 or something like that afterwards to be where they're at. They were at 500, and they went on a tear. They got hot, and here we are right now. Padres have been playing great baseball. The bullpen's been great. The pitching's been good. Our guys have finally come back. You got Tatis back. You got Darvish back. You got Musgrove back at the right time. They're all playing baseball really well. They've shaken off the rust of when they were hurt. They are doing incredibly well. The only thing that's kind of been shaky, has been Robert Suarez. It's been one of those things where I hate to say it, I don't know if he has the changeup anymore. I think he might have lost it. And the way he's not throwing it, the way I think he threw – not yesterday, but the game before when the triple play happened to bail him out. I think he threw one changeup and he like spiked it like 10 feet in front of the plate. And when you look at stuff like that and you go, our closer needs to be able to throw off speed. Our closer needs to be able to get guys to whiff. And don't get me wrong, Suarez's fastball, like you look at it, it's one of the top fastballs as a closer. It's got the right spin. It doesn't really kind of fall. It stays up. It has a little bit of rise action to it. And so he'll get whiffs on it. But if he's not locating it like on the spots and where he wants and it leaks over the middle of the plate, we saw what happens. It gets hit. And even then, his outing 2 nights ago wasn't bad. It wasn't Like there was a couple like really hard hit balls, but there was also, hey, he broke a bat and it managed to get to the outfield. It wasn't like horrible, but it's not something you want out of your closer, especially when you have Tanner Scott and Jason Adams out there that can get people to whiff. They have a good secondary pitch. They can locate their fastballs and throw hard. It just makes more
Yeah,
sense to, hey, Suarez, until you get your changeup figured out, we're going to take you out of these little bit of high leverage situations because we need somebody that's going to be able to throw two different pitches.
yeah, and I feel like that is the one thing like people, and I don't know. I don't think people should be like, oh, like we should be all like pumped. Like not that we're not pumped, like, but it's like that is a super scary part. That's probably the only thing. Would you say that's the only thing you're concerned about right now? Like as a team coming in the playoffs, the starting pitching been great. Like you said, Darvish, Musgrove, they've been balling since they've been back. Obviously, Cease, not like his best outing last night, but he wasn't like terrible or anything. The 2 outings before that, he was awesome. And then, of course, Michael King's been really good too. Like the pitching's been great. The lineup is complete. The lineup's been really good. You know, a couple guys that have kind of struggled up until the last like week or so were Cronenworth and Bogarts. Dude, they've been kind of hot lately. Cronenworth had a great game 2 nights ago. Bogarts has had a couple multi-hit games in the last week. Like, okay, maybe they come around all of a sudden. Like you have some guys at the bottom of the lineup too. Obviously Machado and Tatis have been on absolute fire. Arise, I don't think he had a hit last night. But before these last couple of games, he was doing really well also. But it's like, okay, everyone's doing good. Like the lineup is really complete. And we're talking about, okay, you're likely going to be in that wild card spot, which we talked about the importance of winning the division. Like it does make the path drastically easier for you. But look at every single year. Like it almost feels like every single year there's a wild card team that sneaks up, especially since they started to add the wild card teams. Like, and looking at it, you're like, well, it's all about getting hot at the right time. Padres have had the best record in the second half. I mean, they show that all the time. They're a very, very good defensive team. They have good pitching. They have a complete lineup. It's like they have all of the tools to go out there and win it. So we kind of look into what the wild card looks like. If you look at the standings right now, if the season ended today, the Padres would be the 4 seed, the Mets would be the 5, the Diamondbacks would be the 6, and the Braves are on the outside looking in. Right now, the Dodgers are the 1 seed, Phillies are the 2 seed, and the Brewers are the 3 seed. So if you're the 4 seed, you end up playing the 1 seed in the second round if you move on. Like if you're the 4 or 5 seed, right? Padres are going to be there. So Padres are going to play the 1 seed. That's either going to be the Dodgers or the Phillies, very clearly, right? Right now, it's the Dodgers. It kind of depends how the next few days go. We don't know yet. We have to wait to see who that team is. So it's very hard to speculate. Wild card wise, this is where it gets crazy because the Padres are playing the Diamondbacks. And even if they don't win tonight, even if they're not able to go and win the division, we were talking about this, it's really important that they beat the Diamondbacks because if they beat the Diamondbacks don't get a wild card spot or they go to the 6th spot. The 5 spot being either the Mets or the Braves is huge because if you weren't aware of this, the Mets and the Braves games rained out the last 2 days. So they have 2 rainouts. Guess when they're playing? Chase, we already talked about this, but they're playing on Monday. The wild card round starts on Tuesday, and those games are going to be to make the playoffs. So they have a double header. After playing 3 games in a row over the weekend, they have a double header on the Monday. They have to get into the playoffs that way. You play one of those teams, and they have to both play a competitive game to make the playoffs on that day. Like they have to throw 2 real arms. Their bullpen's going to be fatigued. The team's going to be fatigued. They're not going to be able to use a couple of their good starters. And all of a sudden, that wild card round, you have a huge advantage. So it's a big deal, even if they do make the wild card round. Because I've seen some stuff where it's like, oh, like it's kind of like almost like a if necessary thing where it's like if it's necessary to like play your guys in the last day of the season or whatever. But it is important that they do not play the Diamondbacks in the first round. Diamondbacks, now they've cooled off a little bit. They've still been one of the best second half teams as well. We've seen the crazy comebacks that they've had. I don't want to mess with the Diamondbacks, all right? I don't know how you're feeling, Chase, but I would feel a lot more confident. The Braves are injury riddled. They don't have their guys. The Mets have been good, but the Padres have consistently done really well against the Mets. And also, it's just the aspect of their bullpen is going to be worn out, completely worn out. They're playing competitive baseball to the very, very end, and you have an advantage. Kind of what we talked about is if you win the division, you just go to the divisional series, and it's like, okay, well, if we go to the divisional series, right, then it's a lot easier because we could throw our top arms. This other team doesn't have their top arms. That's the same advantage that the Padres get if they play the Mets or the Braves in the opening round. Still, like you don't like you got your work cut out for you. They're good teams, everything like that. But it is a much better scenario for the Padres, and it's really going to be crazy, dude. Like this last week of like from here on out, I mean, like starting at the beginning of this week, baseball right now is just crazy. All of the stuff going on. The Tigers shot up in the AL. They jumped teams. Like it's been fantastic baseball. But the scenarios are very interesting, Chase. So I want to know, like, what do you think? What are you kind of like hoping for if you're the Padres side? Like, what's your target matchup? If you obviously your target matchup is to win the division still. If you don't win the division, what's your target matchup?
Honestly, I don't really know if I want to like having a division title would be amazing. At the same time, I don't want the guys to take a few days off and get like comfortable. I'm almost more comfortable with them just playing throughout the entire wild card. I mean, when you look at teams, it's like you said, who gets hot at the right moment. And usually those wild card teams, they get hot and they continue playing hot baseball throughout the entire playoffs. I mean, look at the Diamondbacks. We didn't think the Diamondbacks were going to make the playoffs last year. They stuck with the wild card and made it to the World Series. It's one of those things where, hey, you know what? As long as we continue to play good baseball, let's just continue to play baseball. Sure, you have like these off days here and there, but having a couple off days while people figure out the wild card series, I much rather just continue playing baseball. Be like, hey guys, we're gonna power through it. Don't want to play the Diamondbacks at all. You know, much rather stick to the wild card series. Play either the Mets or the Braves. Like they're gonna be worn down. You said and for like a strategic perspective, what do you think the Braves and Mets do? Do they throw their top guys out knowing that they're going to have to play man down basically going into the wild card, or do they throw their lower starters out and hope that they get good from both of them and then try to play your top guys?
I think you guys throw your top guys, because if you don't throw your top guys, the problem is you might not make it. Like you have to just almost play like it's your last chance every single time, because that's why the playoffs get crazy, because it's like we got to throw this guy. Oh no, we're throwing him on short rest. Okay, last time he came out, we only pitched him 3 innings because he loaded the bases. You know, at the beginning of the 4th, he only threw 65 pitches. He can come out in 3 days. Like that's why the playoffs get crazy, because all of a sudden the rest days, all that stuff, it goes out the window because all it's about is winning, and that's where both the Braves and the Mets are. But it can be a detriment at times, especially if your other team they don't have that. So I think that they have to just keep throwing their guys. But dude, it sucks for them. Like the fact that their games got rained out is like it is such a disadvantage. Yeah, it's a bad scenario. We're like it's cool for baseball, like from a fan perspective. Like we get a double header to see who's in the playoffs the day before the playoff starts. But for those teams, it's like we're screwed, man. Like we're so screwed. So it'll be, I mean, we're definitely going to tune in. I'm definitely tuning in for those ones on Monday, but I don't know. I think you got to throw your top guys.
Like the only advantage that they have is that it is a doubleheader and it's only going to be 7-inning games. So realistically, like you could.
Is it only going to be 7-inning games?
Almost. Doubleheaders are usually only 7-inning games.
I don't think so. No. When has a doubleheader ever been a 7? Maybe in like college.
Oh no, I'm thinking of COVID rules. I might be thinking of the COVID rules.
No,
I thought doubleheaders were 7.
They would be interesting if they did that for this, but no, they're not going to do that.
No, because I remember they did that at one point. I think it was during COVID. As you guys have seen, I've been very busy and not all up to date on baseball. But
it's also college too.
And in college too. Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, then never mind. Because I know they were doing that in the MLB at one point, and that was just a few years ago. But playing in 2 9-inning games back to back, you're gonna have to give up 2 starters. Your bullpen's not going to be rested. Your guys are not going to be rested. And then you got to travel on top of that too right after the game ends because you don't have home field advantage. That's the worst case scenario for any team. And how could you not want that as your opponent? That's exactly what you want. You want your opponent to be all worn out. You don't want their best guys available. And that's kind of just been gifted to the Padres because of weather. So I don't want to win the division. Like, I want to win the division, but at the same time, from like a strategic standpoint, let's just play good baseball against a worn down team and just continue staying hot.
And momentum is kind of everything, especially because baseball is such like a mental sport. Like you see that, like that's like the whole thing. Like hitting is contagious. It's like, yeah, it is. Like watch how that goes. Also, for the doubleheader thing, I don't even remember this, but apparently, dude, you're right. In 2022, they had 7-inning doubleheaders. We also never see doubleheaders. That's the thing. It's like,
Yeah,
you don't really need it. It very, very rarely happens. But yeah, it was in 2023. So last year, they didn't renew it. But that was a thing. I did not even remember that.
that's
I
what
was like, geez, where are you coming from with this? I'm like, I don't think that's ever been a thing.
Like, it was a thing. It was a thing.
Yeah, but yeah. All right, guys. I think that's gonna do it for this one. Just kind of want to talk about where the Padres are at. Got a great matchup tonight. We're gonna see kind of a sneak peek of what Walker Buehler looks like right now because he's been struggling on the Dodgers end. If that is the playoff matchup in the NLDS, this is a big one to watch to see what he looks like. Obviously, was it Musgrove tonight? I think it's Musgrove tonight. Still got to win. The goal is still to win out every single time. Like that's best case scenario, but just playing the logistics of it, it's like, okay, they're probably not going to win the division unless Charlie Blackmon has one last hurrah. Because Charlie Blackmon he's a Padre killer, but he's also a Dodger killer. If you didn't know, like he just
an NL
murders
killer.
anyone in the NL West. Anyone in the NL West, he's gonna ride. So maybe we'll have a crazy Charlie Blackmon like walk off, like last game of the season type thing. That would be sick. But yeah, this can do it for this one. Talking Jackson Merrill tomorrow. Talking Robert Suarez. Chase gave a little sneak peek of that because that's probably like one of the biggest kind of topic, like just talking points right now. But yeah, Padres are hot, and it's going to be a very, very fun rest of the year baseball wise. So we'll talk to y'all soon. Have a good one.